Today's video will not be an easy one. This video is going to be quite hard to sit through. So, in recent events, Sarah Everett was kidnapped and she was murdered by a police officer. And this came out in the news recently. And obviously that is tragic. That is a horrific event for Sarah's family and for any of her loved ones. The Metropolitan Police officer appeared in court charged with the kidnap and the murder of Sarah Everett. So Sarah Everett was kidnapped and murdered by a Metropolitan Police officer, a man. A male Metropolitan Police officer who kidnapped and murdered a civilian, which is horrendous and unforgivable and completely despicable. But instead of celebrating Sarah as a person, instead of giving love and support to her family and her loved ones, what ended up happening was a member of the Green Party decided to come out and hijack this tragic event for Sarah and turn it into yet another feminazi debate. Cause controversy, outrage, and really just completely disrespectful to the life of Sarah. Me and many other online content creators made TikToks, videos, posts, all sorts of stuff, enraged by this Green Party member who decided to hijack this tragic event and instead turn it into a publicity stunt to try and rally up feminazis against men, claiming that just because the person involved in the crime was a man, all men must equally share his blame. My TikTok did quite well for me. It was the best TikTok I'd put out in a long time. And this member of the Green Party, I'm not even going to say her name, but she decided to get up in a cabinet meeting and she decided to go all Gollum. She wants to lock all the menses inside the houses and they're not allowed out. No menses are allowed out of the houses. No, we have to lock them all up, Gollum. So this woman, right, decides out of nowhere she wants to hijack this tragic event and flip it on its head and start using it as a way to publicise and advertise the fact that we need a 6 p.m. curfew for all men because a crime was committed by a man. Newsflash, I don't know if this person's ever even seen the internet, but crimes have happened all the time, okay? Crimes have happened for history now. Like, there's too many crimes to even recount. But men and women both commit crimes. Just because men and women both commit crimes, it's very important to make sure that those criminals involved in those crimes are dealt with and punished through the justice system. Instead of debating about who we let in and not into the police, instead of debating that, which would have been a great debate to have after this, a policeman being convicted for the murder of Sarah Everett and the kidnapping of Sarah Everett, instead of debating that, this governess, or whatever the frick she is, decides she wants to come up here and start shouting about having all men having a 6 p.m. curfew. So no men are allowed out on the streets after 6 p.m. because it will make women a lot safer. In this debate, I've never heard her mention any positives or negatives when it comes to men and the male point of view. And especially, even more importantly, trans people. Or people who identify outside of the quote-unquote female or woman demographic. This person is so out of touch, she can only rival foamed-mouthed crazy feminazis to come to her aid, instead of talking about what's actually happened here. A police officer who should never have been given that amount of power and trust has completely spat in the face of his badge, his country, his duty, and he has committed a heinous and horrific crime that he should horrifically be punished for. And that is, without a shadow of a doubt, undoubtable. Every person on planet Earth can see that that is a heinous act and he needs to be punished for that crime. But not every man is accountable for one man's actions. Let's look back at World War II, for example. Hitler was a Nazi. Okay? And he got a lot of German people under his power and under his control to become Nazis as well. Now, just because Hitler did that to the German population of World War II, does that give us the right to judge the people in Germany today for that man's actions? No, it doesn't. It does not give us the right to judge for one man's actions.
Having a defence available to householders defending themselves, but not to women in abusive relationships.
In this clip, it just shows the blatant disregard for Sarah Everett. She's not even bothered or even moved by the situation. She's hijacked Sarah's event and turned it into a publicity stunt.
Someone they know can be dangerous and violent towards them is discriminatory.
It's despicable. When you watch the full clip, and I will link it, she talks about the domestic abuse for women and how women should legally be allowed to murder their abusers, but doesn't talk about anyone else.
That at the next opportunity for any bill that's appropriate, I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m, which I feel would make women a lot safer.
And this was the thing that blew us over the edge. The curfew for all men. Because men are the problem. Men are the only people who can commit crimes and who are dangerous.
Discrimination of all kinds would be lessened.
And then she concludes her speech with saying that that would help with discrimination and all this stuff. And what are you talking about? What are you even going on about? You're so hypocritical. It's blowing my brain cells. You want to go on about how men committing crimes, because of one man's actions, it should result in the punishment of every man out there. Okay? And every person who identifies as a man, they fall under your bracket. How are you even going to enforce this dumbass law if there's not going to even be talks from every point of view on it? It's women were in a dangerous situation because a man committed a horrific crime to them, and therefore all men should serve the punishment for that one man's actions. Well, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. Okay? Women commit crimes too. Women commit all sorts of crimes. But that doesn't mean that every woman should be guilty to those women's crimes. Look at the Moors murderers. Look at Myra Hindley. Look at Tonya Harding. Look at every female case file that you'd fail to bring up. The actions of one bad human shouldn't then have to result in the punishment for a group of people that they once belonged to. It's bloody stupid. I know, and when you listen to the domestic abuse side of things, the interview I will link, when she talks about the domestic abuse side of things, she wants to make it legal for females. She doesn't mention men. She doesn't mention trans people. She doesn't mention anybody else, any other group of people. She only mentions women. She wants to make it perfectly legal and excusable for a woman in a domestic abuse relationship to lethally protect herself as a form of self-defense. That is horrendous. Why are we talking about this? Why is this a thing? You don't understand that men can be domestically abused. Trans people can be domestically abused. And if a man had killed his partner in self-defense because he was being domestically abused by her, I don't think her kind-hearted nature would be really open towards him. Or maybe even a trans person in that fact. This person should be removed of power, should be revoked for her stupidity. It's 2021. Forget men, women, whatever you want to identify as, forget that. At the end of the day, the most basic principle going is the fact of this. Every person on this planet, every human being on this planet, right? Human being. And people are offended that the word human has man in it. I don't give a shit. Listen, every person on this planet, every living person, breathing person on this planet, every human on this planet who does good things, who is a kind-hearted person, who is a kind, honest, genuine member of their society, of their whatever their group they want to identify as, whatever people or religion they're a part of, regardless. Every human being who does good on this planet wants equality for everybody. They want equality for every single person. They want everybody to be judged the same way. They want everyone to be appreciated in the same way. They want this unified thing of that human mankind. I know people get offended by those words, but they want people to be connected together under this joint unity. And people like this person only reinforce the divide. Of 2021, it shouldn't be about locking all men away because of the crimes for one man, because I guarantee in 2021, if a woman had committed the same crime, if she'd kidnapped and murdered somebody, if it was a female police officer or a random female person in the public went out and committed this crime, I doubt she would be having the same conversation that she's having right now. And this logic of now that it's blown back in her face and she's trying to retreat from this statement is stupid. At the end of the day, as long as you're a good, genuine human being and you want to just be a kind, functioning member of society, everyone should be treated as equal. It doesn't matter who you want to identify as, what gender you are, what religion you are, what race you are. None of that shit needs to matter. People forget how far as a species we've come. They've forgotten about all the good and all the bad that we've done. And it's just this big blended spill of just outrage and triggeredness and offendedness and all this rubbish. At the end of the day, the basic principle is you've got people on this planet who are good, people on this planet who are bad. And as long as we punish the bad people, and only the bad people, we will have a better functioning society. But there'll always be people at the end of the day who are shouting, kill all men, burn them all, get them off, get them to Mars, get them to a planet where we can just nuke them all off the face of the earth. And then there are people online as well who are, triggering women and trying to cause outrage with women. There are people who are trying to cause outrage with trans people and all sorts of different types of people. Every group gets triggered and offended in one way or another. But at the end of the day, if we all just put the differences aside and all united on one front, these types of situations would never need to happen, and these types of conversations would never need to happen. Just use a bit of logic and a bit of common sense. It's not that difficult. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.